Hello everyone, and this is Defacto Review. Welcome to the new edition of Defacto Review. Tonight we have Mr. Jarkal Saha and myself, Bill Gung. So we're going to discuss about several topics tonight. Appointment of the fifth head of IAAC in 11 years. The value of state titles and awards. Will loan interest go down with the new law passed? 1,072 stocks will not go active this year. So our first topic, by the way, thank you for coming for our discussion today. And our first topic will be on IAAC. And since the formation of IAAC in 2007, there have been 4 heads, and they're already talking about the 5th head. So, but according to the law, it says that, their term in office should be 6 years. But is there anyone who finished that whole 6 years?
That's the point. Nobody has done. And now we talk about the 5th candidate. The 4th is going to be almost forced out now, I think, by the President office after 1.5 year service, because he was replacing the previous person who had asked for health reason to resign. There are only 3 cases that you can resolve free. That the position is first death, second on request, the third health reason. So. And now the President office is pushing very hard to replace him. Even President promised at the opening of the Parliament spring sessions that he will replace him. And now there are, of course, this legal discussions going on whether he should be regarded as his term finished or not. President office said that because he was replacing the previous one, with whom this term is finished already. So it's he is over term, expired over the term. So even the President office have announced a public tender kind of people who will suggest somebody or himself, but there should be certain requirements, and then the person who gets the most amount of supports would be nominated, which sounds very vague because. Out of 10 person, somebody's got 9 nominations, and so this is another reason. It is not the main reason, I think, but what I can tell that on that is, in general, Mongolia became signatory nations of this UN Anti-Corruption Convention from 2003. Our parliament had adopted that convention signature by Mongolia. 2005, 2006 we made renew with our anti-corruption law. Then 2007 we have this new agency which is fighting. And the first head of the agency died under certain not clear circumstances in Australia. And the second one was imprisoned. The third one had requested for health reason. The 4th one is now fighting for his positions. And according to Mr. Inkbold, who is the Chancellor of the President office, the guy is pretending to do his job better by arresting 2 prime ministers, etc. So one of them is really pretending. One, if he did, as Mr. Inkbold suggested, that he's pretending and arresting just 2 PMs for that reason, he will have responsibility for that. If he is not, he is exactly doing his job, then Mr. Inkbold should have responsibility for claiming that he is doing something for his own purpose. But in general, even they will replace this man with another guy, it doesn't change substantially the corruption situation in Mongolia. Why? Because corruption institutions, this anti-corruption agency, is not addressing the following 3 issues. First, there is a provision inside of the convention about returning the assets, lost assets,
Right.
which we are not working on that. We tried to work, and it turned out that if we find some high-ranking political officials, political public officer has a property, say in the U.S. or in England, you should have an agreement to work together with that nation on the issue of legal assistance.
Right.
So we need to sign that one. China had signed, that's why they had, remember this fox hunt project, they have brought back 20 economic fugitives, including 242 former state officials. And they had this agreement with 70 countries, that's why they have brought those criminals, and they got $1.1 billion worth assets back. So this is the first issue where that would not work. And second issue, according also to that convention, the authorities should work making clear political party financing, which is the very cell of Mongolian corruption in this country. And they have not been working with political party financing in Mongolia, which not only gave a route for corruption, but also is encouraging a lot the corruption. The third thing is something that we Mongolians as society should do.
Right.
We should have this, we may call it social order, that doesn't give fertile ground for corruption to take root. And that starts from the very culture we create with our children, and we should have been more, having a society having more moderation, more self-control, and sense of common goods. So with that mood, if you will, the society can make a less this corruption in our mind.
What do you mean by the common property?
Common property, you know, this is called the sense of common goods.
Common goods, right?
Yeah, in Mongolia, that is very less developed concept. We don't pay much attention to our common properties, common goods. Even you see the way how lands are distributed, how the construction companies are making buildings. They don't pay small attention to the certain property land that everybody can use, except parking.
Right.
So it should be in England, for example, it's usually parks. Why? Because everybody can come and meet together.
So we're lacking common goods. So how is that affecting corruption to go bigger?
Yeah, because of this only small things, I talk about park. But everything that is coming from budget is also common goods. It's your and my property and everybody's property. And without that common sense, if each tries to grab more, then how about the whole common properties? So that's, I think, something we should instill in our children. And really, public interest, something that we need to develop. And now, instead of fighting with that, many people try to be a member of political party, and through which trying to seize certain political positions, public positions, through which they try to grab more common goods to own benefit, which is called corruption.
Right. So it seems like, you know, people are getting a little selfish, that they want to own things for their own possessions instead of focusing on common goods and, you know, what everybody else needs.
In general, there should be a sense of non-tolerance of this sort of behavior. Instead, this country, because we have not been combating corruption on the right time and consistently, many corrupt officials are keep doing their jobs. According to media, they keep reporting, but after a certain time, they feel like they haven't done anything wrong. And now the concept of corruption kind of becoming a sort of a standard, normal order in the society, which we should not allow. And that's why this anti-corruption agency should be fighting against this sort of mood with the most powerful approach they can do. So it just even replacing this head of the anti-corruption agency doesn't mean that we will combat corruption unless we address these three issues.
Okay, all right. Thank you for the discussion on IAAC. We're going to move on to the next topic, which is on the titles, the military titles, which is a general title, was issued first in 1944, and a total of 181 people were awarded with that title. But recently, 2 general titles have been taken back by the president. What's your view on that? Is president doing this just to show the power, or to set like a responsibility system in there, or how do you see that?
As you said, 3 generals were taken. Prior that, another general who became Kazakhstan citizen.
Oh.
General J.K., who got that Kazakhstan citizens, was the title was taken back. Now with these 3 generals that they took back its rank, right?
Right, it's like a military rank.
They were somehow they were connected with criminal cases, and they got already prison punishment or the sort of punishment. And one was connected during the July 1st, 2008 election day, a murder of 5 persons.
Right, the black day in the history.
And Mr. Dash was also misusing embezzlement of public property. And the former General Dash, the leg was connected with some illegal trading of some parts of planes, military planes.
Right.
So all these 3, and also some titles for keeping the horses, for horse racing
trainers.
Right. They have some state titles, big titles, and with those titles money comes. So it's not only just title issue.
Right.
With the generals as well. So the question is coming whether our high ranks, government awards come to the fair way, in a very fairly fashion to the people. If it is, then why these people are somehow let on becoming criminals. And this is a big issue is coming. And the second issue also, similar to that, also ambassadorship.
Right.
Somebody's appointed as ambassador to some countries, and the new president is changed. The new president, no, they will not go. So it's a technical issue for us. President is president.
Right.
A, B doesn't matter for us. President A or President B. But what's happening? What's behind? Is the ambassador position or rank is punishment, payment, or what? So this sort of issues are coming all together. Altogether, it shows how, as like previous matter, how the legal system is not perfect, how laws can be interpreted differently depending on your interests. So a lot of things to go for us to make our democracy, this value set further stronger.
So maybe because of the law that can be easily interpreted, on behalf of those who want to take advantage of the law, it's reducing the value of the title and ranking in award.
Exactly, that's this kind of devaluation of these sort of high titles, which unfortunately devaluing of the worth of those people who honestly deserve this sort of awards.
Right.
So one is to be very careful now in awarding people, and those awards should be fair and generally accepted.
Right.
That's the other thing. I think we, as society, should pay attention.
So it's the good thing that president is showing that once you get it, if you don't maintain it right, it's be easily taken.
I guess so.
Off of you, right?
I guess so.
Okay. So our next topic we'll be discussing about the the law draft that's been submitted by Member of Parliament Erden, who tries to put the ceiling on the loan interest forcefully. And it states that SME loan should be limited to up to 18%, and pension law up to 12%, and other loans like it cannot be higher than 24%. So with the inflation and other like the money value and economic situation, are these percentages are legit, or is it okay to put forcefully ceiling or limit on the interest without just
Unfortunately, it is not okay, as it was proved in the case of many countries. Almost 70 to 80 countries have tried that. Some countries are trying up to now, but no one had a success. That's the proven story. And even in the US, they had the sort of ceilings. In some states may still have, but it is restricting the access to loans. Because now, if they do artificially lower rate to the to the loan, then now they can be more selective to give to whom, right? The bank decides. So what happens is now people have a less access to loan. In Japan, for example, they have more access. They have been for quite some time. The small and medium enterprise had no chance to have any loan, so they went to say criminal groups, which will readily allow them to borrow even with higher interest rate.
Right.
But their punishment is severe. If you don't pay, you're gone. So
is that interest rate is regulated by the government?
That's what many countries try, but never succeeded. Even in Germany, they have tried, but the access to the loan becoming way difficult and very rare, which stops the economic normal move. But instead, to decrease in a market way through supply and demand, to decrease the loan, what kind of things should be done in the society or should be there? It should be a full freedom of businesses, economic businesses, and it should be no competition from the government. How you can compete with the government companies?
I know, right?
At the end, we are making transition towards market economy. Instead, Mongolian government is creating state-owned companies. By the way, all of them are working with great loss. And how in that situation's economy works, these companies are subsidized through budget or by other means, which means by our tax money, and which is taxing those companies who is working, and with the money, giving the company to the companies who is not working properly.
That is incurring loss continuously.
Mongolian state-owned companies are actually owned by parties. So I say it is not state-owned companies, which says that we own it. No, it's political parties own it. And because after every election, they keep changing their CEOs, all this, the executive team, and they put other guys just because they are their political party members, and just because they have been supporting that guy, or minister, whoever, for their political campaign. So Mongolian government is destroying normal way of market economy and creating so many state-owned companies, which is destroying completely normal competition. And plus they control price. 8% of, for example, of mortgage loan. It's artificial. It's impossible to maintain. It's not sustainable. Yet they are taking money from budget and giving to these people. What happens? Housing prices never goes down, with the expectation that my government will give money to customers and they will buy it. As a result, we have 40,000 apartments staying without owners, and on one side, on the other side, we have 200,000 families staying with no sanitation conditions. So I think all this, and it gives a good chance for all the commercial banks to increase their loan rate. The increase is also because our saving rate is very high, 16%, 24% loan. They have some maybe 3-4% their cost. The remaining 2-3% is their profit. So bank is the only industry which makes money in this country. So That's why artificially you cannot do it.
Professional economists suggesting that it's a very harmful way of doing populism by, you know, artificially putting the ceiling on the interest rate. It's it's going to result in either to make a decision on behalf of the public who does not really know much about how economy should go, or create an economy that's really unhealthy and suffer altogether in it.
Oh, our politicians are, I think, not less populists than those politicians who made the sort of loan interest rate ceilings in other countries. Mm-hmm. Politicians are all, not depending on their country, location, mm-hmm. nations, mm-hmm. they're kind of people that are ready to do everything in order to be re-elected. Mm-hmm. So somehow in our democracy, we don't know how to limit that personal interest beyond mm-hmm. coming to over our interests. Mm-hmm. So the society, the more mature, they could more control. But Mongolia is a very young democracy. We keep learning, and our politicians are ready to do everything that they are re-elected. Mm-hmm. But there's no key interest about the survival of the economy.
So once the good education is provided in the public, this issue should be solved little by little, right?
Exactly, and we are paying a lot cost for mm-hmm. learning that education. Mm-hmm. So in particular, private companies. That's why less and less private companies are becoming productive, less competitive, and that's why the creation of jobs mm-hmm. are becoming very slow. As a result, many Mongolians are now in line for big queue to go to Korea. I was wondering how can be like this.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to the next topic. We just know that recently the list of 100 top companies in Mongolia was issued, and among them, one of the top company was Erdnes Tamatolgoy, which incurred a lot of loss ever since it was founded. But this year they reported profit of 461.1 billion MNT. So, but they said that they're not going to distribute dividends among the shareholders, which is us, the public. Why is it happening? If the public company is, making profit, they should, give us some, right?
Well, that's the issue. It's mm-hmm. very hard to call Erdnes Tamatolgoy as public company. Mm-hmm. It is politically motivated, artificial company that is even just a few days ago registered as a public closed company. Mm-hmm. Also, because 3 citizens, fortunately, we should thank 3 citizens who were fighting at administrative court on our behalf, 2.5 million shareholders, mm-hmm. for the rights of shareholders demanding that these things should be open. Mm-hmm. And even they are not registered as a company by our company law, only after that administrative court decisions they made recently that registration. What does it mean? 2010, government promised to give a nature share to everybody, and they have given 2.5 million people share, mm-hmm. about 1,000, something 72 or so, mm-hmm. and they gave artificial price. Mm-hmm. That time, remember, the economy was up, mining stocks were, the price was coming up, and they have seen, each has a $1,000. So mm-hmm. kind of nominally we have $1 million 2 weeks worth value that time mm-hmm. of shares, and which was very funny. Now, when the price went down 10 times less, for example, at least public company MMC in Hong Kong, mm-hmm. their share for last 10 years, for this 8 years, went down 10 times less. Mm. So that's the whole danger, mm-hmm. because it's a public company, if shareholding company, the shares price or value of the company market capitalization is to be determined by market. Mm-hmm. Not by some bureaucrats who are doing in their cabinet some calculations. And they did. What happened was they have recently rewrite their balance, and they have increased 2017 balance 3 times more than the 2016. Why? Because they have taken this old prices of shares, and now by the public demand, they have to maintain normal balance. And they have increased the balance 3 times more because they have given the value of 15% of the whole company owned by us, 85% by the government. So 100% altogether is making about 11 billion Turks price, the value, okay? Then this one, they made artificial balance on this side, and they had in here, in the asset side, they put non-material asset.
How is that possible? It's like a printing money. I mean, you have to have the other side, the actual, the asset that, to back up the shares,
That's why they say it is non-material, that's called non-physical asset. That's the name they have created. And that means that non-physical asset having in mind that the reserve of the Tawan Talga mine itself. But if you compare with the reserve that you can develop, say this one is 4 times more than the current market value of MMC, which is another part of the Tawan Talga. Say here this time is because the reserve is 4 times, 5 times more. Let's have a 4 times more. Then today the MMC value is $250 million only. It's after investing so much in power stations, in the washing factory, coal washing factory. It is still worth only $250 million. Okay, let's be optimistic. Let's say here this Tawan Talga is on, say, worth 4 or 5 times. It's all to $1 billion the most today, and yet this in the balance of the company, it's worth $5 billion company. So what's going to happen once it's registered now, which is they already did? How you can have market value of this much, book value is 5 times more, then you have IPO, initial price you will require quite high, which can be immediately fall down at a day of initial public offering. That will be gain loss for shareholders. So that's the concern I think people, economists have one. So and we hope this Tawan Talga, Ernest Tawan Talga at least put their financial information into their website, which they have not done it, and they don't have even a photo of the shareholders, board members.
To at least respect the public, right?
So that's why we, as shareholders, demand this company to put all information, all financial true information for us, please.
All right. Thank you for holding a very interesting discussion on the topics today, and that is for tonight. We'll see you on next Sunday with more interesting discussion. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.